strategy and business development for digital entertainment companies. So it's some of it's music, some of it's not music. By being consultant for so long, I've been able to observe trends and meet a lot of different companies and see different ideas come and go. And I was really impressed when I saw YouNow. I saw the app last summer when they were just sort of taking off with their user base, and was just completely blown away by it. I had seen Meerkat, I had seen Periscope. I get it, where someone just puts it on, turns it on themselves, and people chat, and there's hearts going, and you're not sure if your heart is the one that's going or what. It's very like odd experience. What I loved about YouNow, and then what I loved about Twitch and others that I saw after this, was that they really made it an entire experience. So YouNow in particular, when you're on the app, you're almost never not watching video. You turn it on and boom, you're watching video. You're already in something. You don't like that, while you're searching for something else, you're still watching video. And then it sort of feeds you as you go along. So there's a whole gamification model. I'll let Gregory kind of get into all this.
Where do I send the check?
There's a whole gamification model, and then what really blew my mind is when I talked to the YouNow people, it's natively monetized. So you don't actually need an advertising model. You don't need to get 100,000 followers and then go talk to Pepsi. You can just start making money like out the gate. It's pretty good. So it showed me that this whole category of live stream, with what Periscope was doing and how YouNow was coming up, and which Twitch had been doing for quite some time, was really something completely different. It is really a completely different social content platform, and it also defies everything we know about how to be successful on all the other social content platforms. So by that I mean, you're looking at social content platform, to me, is like Instagram, it's like Twitter, it's like Pinterest, it's social, and there's a flow of content, and there are content creators, and then there's tastemakers, and then at some point a brand comes in, and people may or may not make money on it, and that's sort of how it works. I would see YouTube as somewhat of a social content platform. There is, I guess, a layer of social networking in there, as well as comment, but I see it more like Snapchat, Instagram, and so forth. And the rules with those kind of platforms have always been, the shorter the better, 6-second vines. Even on YouTube, a 2-minute video is pretty much it. They're highly edited. There may be 10 edits in one sentence. And you put it up, and then people will comment, and that's basically how it works. With live streaming networks, it is completely the opposite. It's not about doing something quick. It's about hanging out. It's about hanging out with them for 2-3 hours at a time sometimes. It's about directly engaging as the broadcast is going on, and that's as important for the broadcaster as it is for the user. So if the broadcaster isn't reading the chat and responding and talking back to them, then they're not going to have a successful broadcast. The same way that the person who's chatting isn't going to have a very good time, if they're not participating in the chat. It's one whole thing. So that was really fascinating to me, how everything we know about what makes content successful is completely different. So it sort of opened up, well, okay, so how are YouTube stars going to adapt to this? How are Instagram and Vine stars going to adapt to this? How are they going to actually hold people's attention for so long? And the answer was startlingly simple, because people don't really do that much on live stream platforms. It really is just about hanging out. I actually broadcast myself for quite a bit over the summer. I went on YouNow, which, by the way, is awash with teenagers. And so I'm clearly not a teenager. Didn't want to pretend to. I'm not going to be doing funny jokes or silly skits or cartwheels or playing video games or any of that stuff. So what I ended up doing, I started an account called Ask an Adult. So I put it up there, and I said basically, look, I don't have a kid. I'm not your mom. I'm not your counselor. I have no dog in your fight. You can ask me whatever you want. And if I have an opinion on it, I'll give you an answer. If not, then I'll tap out. So I did that, and was really surprised at how many people came onto the broadcast pretty quickly. And then by doing that, really understood the mechanics of how you get more followers, how the broadcasters help each other out, how there is not only a community between broadcaster and user, but between broadcaster and broadcaster. So that was really fascinating, on top of just talking to the youth of America about whatever seems to be rattling their brains. And I got some really, really interesting questions. I got questions like, what does it take to be happy in life? I mean, how do you answer that, on a broadcast?
Do you know the answer?
I do actually,
Okay,
yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I had a great answer for it. I surprised myself. I had a really good answer. They've never asked me about drugs. I am blown away. Seriously, I really thought somebody would ask me about drugs. And I'd have to go, I don't know, because you never know what's watching. Not that I do anything. But, never asked about that. Never asked about sex. You would think I would be asked about sex. I was asked mostly about bullying. Bullying and little, friendship arguments, college, future work. Those are the kind of things that, politics. We got in a whole conversation about what's happening in the Middle East, which I know enough to be conversational with, but I'm certainly not at, Google, Wikipedia level with anything. But had a really great conversation about what's happening in Syria, what's happening in Iran and Afghanistan, and with the refugees, and what all this means for them, and immigration, and like pretty high level conversations. So. Point being, you could either go on these broadcasts, these services, and do handstands and make silly jokes, and 15-year-old boys make a lot of money doing this, or you could have a higher level of discourse, and it's there for you too. I'm really curious to see how this shakes out over the next year or so, and goes beyond gamers and teenagers, and everybody on the panel here has a lot of ideas on how that's going to shake out. So that's sort of why this is interesting to me, and how I wanted to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about and what I mean by live streaming. Again, I don't mean broadcasting a concert. That is technically, yes, that is a live stream, but live streaming as a category, I think it's very specific. So why don't we just go down the panel, and each one of you can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your company, and don't be shy about explaining the feature set, because I don't assume that anybody knows your feature set as well as you might. So. Sure. Andy, yes.
So I'm Andy Swanson from Twitch. Twitch.tv is a live streaming video platform that traditionally has focused on video games. It was launched as a service called Justin TV. The founders of the company are very smart with live streaming of video, and they opened it up to everybody. It was I don't want to say generic, but it was an open platform for the live stream. And it was having challenges verticalizing it. Where was the stickiness? And they found that people playing video games and other people watching people play video games was a community that was really robust. So I think it's been about 4.5 years ago they pivoted and called it Twitch. I came on 3 years ago when they had 32 million uniques in May of 2013. We're now up to 100 million uniques worldwide. It is a global platform. 100 million uniques worldwide, 1.5 million people broadcast on Twitch. We have 15,000 partners, and partners are the folks that make direct money with us. So you can make money on Twitch without being a partner, but it's a sort of the partnered program where you're officially in the program. We have expanded a little bit outside of gaming, but not intentionally. It's only where the community has shown an interest. So we've seen poker be very interesting on Twitch. We've seen music be very interesting on Twitch, and a category called creative, where people are doing art and crafts and painting. And now within creative, we're seeing food, cooking shows. We launched creative with I think it was like a 5-day Bob Ross marathon, where people just watched old Bob Ross episodes of him painting, and then we launched the food element with the entire catalog of Julia Child's entire. So while 90+% of our area is on gaming, it is based on community and a love of community, and I think you're speaking to it right, where it's the relationship between the platform and the broadcasters and the viewers, as well as the broadcasters and the broadcasters in the company. Right. Average length of time spent on Twitch per user is 1 hour and 6 minutes, on average. So it gives you an idea.
Do they get cut off at a certain point, or can they just watch as long as they want to watch?
As long as you want.
Interesting. Can you broadcast as long as you want?
You can broadcast as long as you want.
Because Greg, I got kicked off after 3 hours.
You shouldn't have.
I did. I got kicked off after 3 hours, mid-sentence, and everybody had to come back.
Too old.
It's over the summer.
Copyright restriction.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's Twitch. Purchased by Amazon about 1.5 years ago for $970 million. So that gives you an idea of the scale, the size, and the interest from a big company like Amazon trying to figure out how to get to sort of 13 to 30-year-old millennial males.
Great, Greg?
Great. So you guys heard a little preamble about YouNow, live social interactive network. The interaction is the core of this platform. We try to create an environment where it is sort of gamified, and the relationship you build with your audience is the key and the center of the broadcast. As Karen said, there are probably a dozen different live streaming platforms that pop up every day, most of which have the ability to cast out a broadcast. That is something that we think is quite common. And we spend most of our time thinking about how you can sort of monetize and tap into the audience that is interested in you. I am the director of business development. I head up our LA office. Our company is headquartered in New York City. My role at the company is enabling multi-channel networks like Fullscreen, agencies, talent agencies, talent managers, and any other talent-driven organization to make use of the platform. And what that means is taking over YouTubers or Viners or Instagram talent and showing them that there is this way to go a bit further with their fans and have a live discussion with them on YouNow. And there is a partner program like there is on Twitch, which enables these broadcasters to earn, most of which who come over end up earning more than they do per time spent on their YouTube channels. There is a very active community of broadcasters and partners, and over 70% of people take some sort of action while they're watching YouNow, whether that is liking, commenting, gifting. You can actually become a guest in a broadcast where you broadcast inside of your broadcaster's stream. So you can do a split screen kind of broadcast, which creates a whole new set of interesting possibilities, like live dance-offs. America's Got Talent did live virtual auditions on the platform. I have collaborated in some beatbox collaborations, rap battles. It's pretty fun. And 13 to 24 years old is the core of our audience. About 75% of those people are in that age group. And it's been around for 4 years. I think one of the interesting things about YouNow is it was really a first mover in the space, and in the initial stages, sort of similar to Twitch, there was really just one place to broadcast, and what would happen was users would try to fight to get into that spot, into that hot seat, and the audience could vote you up or vote you down, and it was a little intensely negative in that sense. You could even throw like digital tomatoes at them if you didn't like them. And then the founder realized that we needed to open it up. We needed to democratize the environment. So now anyone can broadcast, and there is no digital tomatoes. And it's an extremely positive community where we spend a lot of time figuring out trust and safety and how to create a safe environment to broadcast. And that is that.
Awesome. Nick, Fullscreen's a little bit different. I think we all kind of know what Fullscreen is. Do you want to talk about how the focus at Fullscreen is changing and what your role is in with that and how you connect with these services?
Sure. So, like I said, Nick Crooks, Director of Business Operations at Fullscreen. For those who don't know, we are a creator at the core business. We have 80,000 creators across various networks and platforms, whether that be YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouNow. Our position is to figure out how do we grow their business. Creators who sit at the top of our pyramid, they are businesses, they are brands, and we have to figure out where do they want to go and how do they want to expand their brand or their presence. Live has been coming up, and now with the Facebook announcement that they're going to invest millions upon millions of their dollars into live, it's becoming more of a viable option. And I'm here to figure out, what does that look like? What does live look like in 2 years for a creator that has built their entire brand for maybe 10 years on one platform? How do they diversify? How do they use live to link back to the other pieces of their personality, which takes a long time to put together and edit, to shoot and then edit together. So yeah, that's why I'm here, to figure that out.
Hi, I'm Caroline Leslie, co-founder of Parachute TV, which is essentially the first TV network on Periscope. We created Parachute TV in August 2015 because we saw a need to curate content and create content that had entertainment value rather than somebody just turning on Periscope and brushing their teeth. We wanted to create shows that were engaging, entertaining, interactive, informative, fun. So we created Parachute TV, which has 50 shows a week, daily scheduled programming. So there is a TV guide, or a Periscope guide, as it were, where you can go and check out what shows you want to watch. We have everything from cooking to puppets to a Donald Trump impersonator, comedy. And it's funny when you mentioned the content, the short in the past few years with Vine and Snapchat and everything being really quick, and then the live streaming, because we've experimented in the last 9 months on Parachute with both. And we had a show called Horoscope, which was super short. It was under 5 minutes, very highly interactive. It was Blair Witch meets Choose Your Own Adventure, so people steered where the POV, so imagine going through a bush and they meet this scary guy, should you go left, should you go right, jump through, so very highly interactive. But we found the replays were huge, so big people in the room but also huge replays. And then on the other side of the coin, we partnered with the Daytime Emmys this past weekend, and we did a close to 3-hour broadcast of the red carpet, which is super long, but they were thousands of people engaged and sticking in the room. And I think it's because of the anticipatory factor. What if my celebrity comes and I miss them? It's the same thing with when BuzzFeed did the watermelon on Facebook Live. I want to see it explode, so people stick around. That was something I thought was interesting. Going forward with Parachute, we're expanding to Facebook Live, YouNow, and we're going to be focusing on live event coverage, comedy, and lifestyle verticals going forward.
I've always kind of thought that the live streams make more sense when they go longer, because it takes people longer to find them.
True.
And then if they find it and then it's not there, it's a disappointment. Like whenever I get something on my phone saying, oh, someone's live right now, and I go to look and they're gone already, it's like, oh man.
And then you have to watch the replay, and it's not really the same experience as being in there live.
It's not, especially on a platform like YouNow, and I would think Twitch also, where part of the broadcast is the broadcaster talking to the audience, responding to the posts in the chat. So if you don't see the post, then the answer makes no sense to you.
Yeah, the broadcast sort of best practices on Twitch is a minimum of 60 minutes, and that's a minimum. Generally, it's 1 hour to 3 hours is sort of the prime time window of when you get your mass amount of viewers, because it takes a while for people to either find it, or like you're saying, oh, I forgot so-and-so's broadcast at this time, or I got my alert, but I don't have time right now, but I'll join him in 15 minutes.
Right.
And so it definitely is something, and again, I think that's really important when you talk about mobile engagement on live video or Facebook engagement on live video. Just how you consume the content will also dictate how the content is produced.
Yeah.
There's also a responsibility on the broadcaster's end to create a schedule and to announce that schedule and to make sure everybody knows it. Everybody knows Saturday Night Live is on Saturday night because it has it in the title. And you just can't forget that Saturday Night Live is on a Saturday.
I was about to go, wait, what?
It
is?
impossible.
Wait, isn't it on Friday?
Live streaming is so exciting because of what folks like Caroline are doing. They're looking at the platform and they're saying, how do we make something interesting out of this? That's not something where I turn it on if I don't have a connection with this personality that's kind of just talking to the camera. How do I see something that's entertaining? Right, because I work for a live streaming platform, and I'll tell you that the majority of content just does not interest me, and that's because there are so many micro niche sort of relationships that I don't have a connection to. And unless I did, I wouldn't actually be compelled to watch that. And so, she's thinking about this as in terms of how do we create an entertainment platform. So imagine if the whole world is trying to figure out the next Saturday Night Live, and there are 30,000 of them going on at any given moment. That could be a really compelling and interesting feature in live streaming.
And what's really great about it is we do see return fans coming back week to week to tune into that certain show that they love, whether it's Donald Trump impersonation, or we have a girl who goes on Tinder on Periscope, and it's Single and Ready to Mingle on Tuesday nights, and she gets a huge audience, and people just want to see her go through the guides, and there is return and high interactive engagement.
Wait, what does she do on Periscope? Is she like going through her Tinder or something?
She goes through her Tinder,
Oh, so
and the
awesome.
people do it along with her, so they're engaging, like, don't pick him, oh, look what his picture, and so it's really fun because they get to be a part of the experience with her.
I mean, it's probably not very hugely known, but has anybody on Tinder who has been commented on said anything about it?
I haven't seen that yet, but I'll ask Alina. I mean,
wonder.
that'd be funny if they saw them being made fun of.
She'll have to change dating apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it brings up a good point. The difference between just the value of just hanging out, which is what you do when you're watching a game. You don't need to be necessarily entertained every moment because you're watching someone play a game. You're getting some tips from it. You're talking to other gamers. And in the situation on YouNow, a lot of the content, when you look at it, is not necessarily fascinating or interesting to us, but it's like AOL chat in the 90s when kids would come home, and do their homework and watch TV and do their homework and talk to 7 different people on chat at the same time. There is that hangout factor, especially if you're a teenager and it's a cute boy, or vice versa, and it's a cute girl. There's that as well. That's one end of it, and the other end of it is actual produced content.
Yeah.
So I mean, where do you guys think the balance is with that? Is there room for both? Is one going to get eked out by the other?
Let me jump in on this one. So Fullscreen, we have a touring division called Fullscreen Live, and we have a series of shows called Hello Shows, where we grab our top influencers and we fly them around the country to meet their fans. That is I feel like you can agree that you want that experience. You want like the backstage pass, and live is a way to provide that, where you go, instead of going to a Hello Show, you're still giving that live access to somebody you're a fan of. And if you're a creator or if you're a brand and you want to link with your fans, we look at live as that momentum to bring your fans to a different place, to expound upon your videos and your brand that may live on different platforms. So I think, just to tie that back in, I think it's a lot about access to who you're a fan of.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. We have a lot of lifestyle shows that do really well, dating advice shows, how-to DIY makeup, hair tutorials, and people do come in and they'll get the tips and the advice and watch the show. And usually we keep our shows to half an hour. It's rare that we do go for 3. That's our live event coverage. But we found that people come in, they enjoy the show, and we have the highest engagement if it's half an hour. But they'll do both. They'll hang out and they'll talk, and they'll be like, it's a big community, a very supportive community on Periscope, and especially within Parachute TV that we have, because there can be a lot of trolls on Periscope, but our community is very supportive. So people will be like, oh, hey, they'll be talking and hanging out, but also watching the show. So I think it's a balance of both, really.
Yeah, I think part of it is also the monetization strategy. Whereas with something like Twitch, and it sounds like YouNow, most of these broadcasters are supported by their viewers. So
Right.
It's either a subscription button where they're subscribing, and the broadcaster's getting recurring money from that person, and they come up in the chat saying, hey, I'm a subscriber, and it's more likely that person's going to interact with their subscriber, or subscriber on subscriber interactions, they're part of a club, they all like this particular broadcaster.
Right.
Donations are a big thing on Twitch, where people just donate to the broadcaster. They have a button, and click it, and you can give. Some of these guys, I've seen donations in the tens of thousands. Where they're coming from, I don't know, but they can make significant amount of money. The actual third way that they make money is a shared ad revenue spend. So actually subscriptions and donations are actually, and what that does is creates a one-on-one connection with the personality and with the stream and with the community, whereas your shows are probably monetized in a different format, I would think. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about, or
Yeah.
maybe full screen too.
Oh,
Or,
no, go ahead.
Greg, you
Yeah.
want, I'm sure you're
Well,
similar.
you know, to some extent, I think especially in the gaming world, there is that lean back side of it where you can kind of just let someone guide you, you know, whether it's an RPG or it's whatever kind of game it is. There's a lot of just inherent entertainment value in that, even though it is personality driven. And then, you know, on the format side, it's like, this is a platform where by default, you're supposed to interact a little bit. So I think that magic middle is, you know, having that sort of entertainment value-driven show where the audience can actually have a bit to do with it. There's a fun one that's popping up on you now. It's Howie Mandel. He has a show called Date My Son, and basically he goes on to his son's broadcast, and a lot of guests line up in the guest broadcasting queue, and Howie goes through this queue and he selects them by hand and says, okay, it's your time to shine. And the guest pops up on the screen, so it's a split screen broadcast. And they basically like have a speed date right there, you know, between Alex Mandel, the son, and the broadcast and the guest broadcaster. But of course, Howie's right there to sort of like watch over everything. It's nice and uncomfortable, yeah. But it's kind of fun to watch because it's like watching one of those dating shows you used to see on MTV or something like that.
Or a NASCAR race waiting for the crash.
Yeah.
You know,
Or waiting for a watermelon
like
to
this.
explode.
Right.
You know, but it's also something you can like, you know, talk about in the chat amongst other viewers, and it's also something you can actually participate in if you want to try and date Alex Mandel. Another example was, I mentioned this earlier, America's Got Talent did live virtual auditions on the platform. So all of a sudden, you know, kids from the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, can audition on YouNow for America's Got Talent without having to go to Chicago for the actual in-person auditions. And that was really special. It was a huge hit for America's Got Talent. And some of the folks are actually going to be on the TV show now. But that was entertaining. Like, I could watch people audition, and it was the same sort of feeling I got when I was watching American Idol for the first time, when I watched those really bad auditions. And then occasionally I was kind of charmed and enamored by the really good auditions. So that's something that I think, you know, if you can find that magic middle, then there's a real future in like the content side of live broadcasting. If not, you know, it's going to be relatively personality driven. And I think, you know, everyone in this room is here to figure that out.
Greg, on those AGT, and even I think you did American Idol auditions too, are those pre-screened, or is that just completely whatever shows up in the queue shows up in the queue?
That's a great question. So we'll actually reach out to the talent companies of the world and say, hey, look, you know, it's publicly announced that this audition is happening on YouNow at Wednesday at 1 o'clock or whatever it is. If you have some talent that want to go, let us know. And we'll try to pre-screen a little bit of them.
Right.
But one way we do it is that we have the guest broadcaster in their sort of profile picture in the queue, like try to indicate what they're doing. So they're going to play guitar, like hold up a guitar, and write in their bio, I'm a guitar player from Omaha or whatever. So you can kind of get an idea ahead of time. You know, luckily we've gone through the pitfalls, or the challenges, I should say, of figuring out how do you make sure you have a safe and clean broadcast. And we have tech and community management and moderation to keep that clean and keep that safe. So that's kind of the extent of how we sort of filter out what could potentially be noise.
Right. And some actually have gone through and like gone onto
Yeah,
the show
yeah.
straight from. Do they have to then go on and meet somebody in person and then go onto the show, or do they go straight to the show?
They go on and meet someone in person,
Okay.
and then they go on to the show.
Cool.
There's been two talent that are going to be on, I think, this upcoming season.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Caroline, I'm really curious, with all the content you're doing and being on Periscope, which can be just kind of like, I find it to be really unorganized. How do you call attention to your shows? Do you work with Periscope in a way to get your shows highlighted, or how do you manage that, I guess, that onboarding process for the user just coming onto Periscope? How do you get them to get into your show?
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the things is just the community itself. Because we've been on there since August, a lot of the users are familiar with Parachute TV, and because we have over 100 influencers that program on Periscope, they will promote, and it's reciprocal. So we promote their channel because we want it to be beneficial for them to get followers on their own channel as well. But they will promote Parachute TV, watch Parachute TV. It has great programming because a lot of people will come on there, like you said, and not know where to go at all. We do have a schedule, so they can check the schedule online on our website. But we do use supplementary apps like Snapchat, Anchor. Anchor is the live streaming app that uses waves, so it's just audio. So we're trying to use supplementary apps as well, where we put the schedule up on Snapchat. We used to do remember on TV when they used to have you could go to the actual TV guide and it would be scrolling. We used to put that on in the early days, so it would just be sort of on our schedule, and people could look at that. Yeah, so those are mainly the things that we do, but it is tricky. We also have a Facebook page where we put the schedule, and that's all linked, and the broadcasters will post there. We do a lot of social on Twitter. So a lot of this show is coming up with a picture. Now that Periscope has been integrated into the Twitter feed with the video, it's super helpful because we put the ad for the show, and then the show comes up right after, so that it's all right there in the one page. For this weekend, when we partnered with Natus and the Daytime Emmys, it was really helpful to have it all on Twitter because they were retweeting, all the soap stars were retweeting, and then they knew that they didn't have to go to Periscope, especially because a lot of the soap fans, some of them are older, they don't know how to use Periscope. They knew that they could just go to Parachute TV's Twitter page and they'd be able to watch all the coverage right there.
One thing that I think that's cool about Periscope and Facebook Live is that you have a curation by geography, by locale.
Right, there's the map.
In the map, and I'm not sure if that solves the problem that you guys are trying to address, but if you look at it from the journalist's point of view, that's really valuable, right? To see what's going on in the streets of Paris, or in London, or in where are we, West Hollywood or something. That's cool to be able to kind of get that sort of element of curation that. Doesn't really happen in YouNow. I'm not sure if it happens on Twitch.
For breaking news, it's huge. Like when San Bernardino happened, the Paris attacks, yes. So, and John actually went on the ground to San Bernardino, and everybody was watching because they would go to the map and they'd look who's live. So that is a helpful tool on Periscope, the map.
Right. Were the Emmys helpful with announcing that you were doing a broadcast? Was it part of their thing, or were they just kind of
it was. We were the official partners with Natus and the Daytime Emmys to Periscope. They weren't televising the ceremony this year, so the fans really wanted some kind of coverage. So we were. They put us in their press releases. They tweeted it. It was great. It was great for us, and we were the official live streaming partner. So
Awesome.
It's nice.
I'm really curious. Is there room for scripted television or network television on live streaming?
Well, that's what we believe there is, and that's where we're trying to go with further in the future, more down scripted. We've done some, but we really want to focus on doing more. We have a ton of great ideas. One of our partners is a Hollywood writer, Seth Cohen. He writes on the NBC sitcom Undateable, but we're constantly brainstorming ideas for scripted, and that's what we want to launch next on Facebook Live. And
Right.
I think the question is, where's the money coming from for those shows?
yeah.
Yeah, we've had some interesting ones because of the demographic that we have, and that gaming intersects as an entertainment category. It intersects with television and movies. We've had some. The guys from Silicon Valley came on the stream a year ago. It was the beginning of season 2, and they premiered episode 1, and then they played games and talked about it and interacted with the fans.
Right.
Mr. Robot on USA, yeah, thanks. USA. They premiered episode 1 and had the cast and the writers and the crew talking about it as well. So there are ways to use the different kind of live and recorded interactions with
Right.
it. So it's like a way to debut stuff or to engage in
I
an
think
audience.
that's like a promotion, though.
Yeah, correct.
Well,
right?
the
And
supplemental and
she's trying
behind
to figure
the
out
scenes
like
is,
how do you create a story.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we do both. We've done, behind the scenes and done supplemental coverage and that kind of stuff, which I think is big on live streaming. But yeah, now we're trying to do like I was wondering while we were at the daytime Emmys. Well, okay, there's digital serials. What if we did a live streaming soap? I was
Yeah.
there thinking, oh, my wheels are turning. I mean, I don't know.
For us, all of the game companies have streams on Twitch. There's a / Electronic Arts and a / Ubisoft and a / Activision. And so the companies themselves can program their channels and go on and announce games and interact with their own community. And so as an open platform, it's not restricted to any particular business model. So
Right.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as a promotion platform, as like a spin-off, it makes a lot of sense, but I just wonder, since live streaming is the success of live streaming is so dependent upon the back and forth between the broadcaster and the viewers and the chat that's involved and the conversation that happens there, and is there really room for that with a scripted show? I mean, do you have to have someone, maybe like a producer or somebody, engaging with the audience? And is this maybe the next second screen experience?
Yeah, I think that's why it is a second screen experience, and I think that's why you have to kind of make it interactive, and that's why our horror show did so well, because it was choose your own adventure, so they were a part of it. So if you can put that element into the scripted, it's scripted / improv or choose your own adventure kind of interactive style, then I think that's interesting, something fun.
Right.
Absolutely. There's a show on you now called Messy Mondays by this Viner, I think, by trade. His name is Goddamn Zoe. He basically comes on, he's hysterical, and clears the air in the YouTube Vine community, addresses all the rumors head on, and he comes with a bullet list of what he wants to talk about. But if somebody is, like the chat or the guest broadcasters are visibly interested in one topic or the other, he'll kind of, be agile in that sense and address that more than the others.
Yeah.
And, I think when you start thinking about it along those lines, like, that really becomes interesting because, you're really invested in the show. And then if you think about it from the advertiser's point of view, if you can sneak ads in there or sneak things in to basically have people click, it's going to be really effective. I mean, on you now, you see 10 to 20% of people clicking the links that are being promoted. That's, unheard of in digital marketing.
It really is, yeah.
And I
Let's
think-
go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that links a lot to engagement where, we have creators in our network who have a built-in audience, and some of them are on YouNow, and YouNow has, YouNowers who have these built-in audiences. So when we think about how that expands, these creators will take their shows or their brands with them to whatever platform they live on. So if I have a creator in my network who's doing really good on YouTube, and Parachute comes to me and says, we have this brand, and we have this show, and we want to input this influencer in it, they're probably going to bring their audience with them. And I think that's kind of the benefit that we want to try to figure out is how do we kind of merge these two things together, because we know that these baked-in audiences are engaged and will follow them wherever they go.
Right.
And Twitch is knows that more than anybody.
Yeah, I think we found an intersection of sort of that scripted and live. I want to call it scripted is the emergence of esports, and you guys have probably heard a lot of esports. It's a big buzzword right now. It's basically just competitive video gaming where people play video games in an organized fashion for a prize pool. The largest prize pool last year was $18.6 million, and sometimes people play for $500 invitational amateur tournaments. So the scale of esports is there's a panel later today if you want to get it. I'm not going
Yeah,
deep
but
there.
quickly, is 18.6 for one person, or is that?
That's a team split. That is a purse for an entire tournament, the international in.
So one team would win that?
One team won $6.6 million.
How does the purse get so big?
It's crowdfunded. So the company that throws it, Valve, and the game is called Dota 2, creates a digital item that they sell to their community, and everybody who buys this digital in-game item realizes that they're contributing to the prize pool. And Valve generously donates 25% of all of their sales to the prize pool, which means if $18.6 million was 25% of what was purchased, you can imagine the other 50 some odd million dollars that Valve pocketed as a part of it, which is why esports and traditional sports have very different business models. Again, there's a panel later on that, or if you want to talk to me about esports, I live it every day, but that's not what we're here for. But it is a big part of Twitch's audience, and actually while it was formed. And it's an interesting intersection where people are playing video games, but it is broadcast. There are people commenting on it. There are shoutcasters. There are replays. There are sponsors. It is basically traditional sports in video games. And what's interesting about it in this space is that it's already global, so because Twitch is an open platform, you can watch it anywhere in the world. And what we're seeing now is that traditional sports are scrambling to try to figure this out. Yeah. Last year we saw an NFL game streamed on Yahoo. We're seeing the ESPN app being able to stream everything. So a lot of what we're seeing in digital content and live streaming, we're seeing it in the traditional sports world, how to figure out how to almost break the traditional model of broadcast rights or retain that model but get it out to the masses because they need more viewers, not subscribe to DirecTV Sunday Ticket. Or
does it interest Twitch to have those rights?
In most cases, Twitch does for esports. For traditional, the model doesn't work yet.
Yeah.
So there's not a model yet where we would want to spend that amount of money to make it back in an advertising play. Gotcha. So the model is different because the esports and live streaming model was born under the radar of traditional television and cable TV, and so the world's different, as you guys all know. Yeah. You're all playing it in a different way.
Yeah.
How would esports look on live stream network? Like, how are you planning on doing an esports?
You mean
tournament?
on TV or
on Twitch?
On Twitch. Oh, it happens all the time. We have
with the same purses, because that's like in a stadium, right? People go and.
So that one is the one I gave to you is sort of the Super Bowl of
sure.
esports. We could go on Twitch at any given point, and I could say there's an esport going on right now in Cologne, Germany. There's an esport going on right now.
Well, they're actually competing for prize money.
Competing for prize money.
Okay. And do you organize that, or do they organize it themselves?
Both. The model can be driven by the person that makes the game. So the game publisher might have an official league, League of Legends Championship Series. There might be independent leagues like Major League Gaming or ESL. Again, these are buzzwords that I don't want to. Or Twitch might actually be a part of creating esports leagues as well. So we can be just the platform, or we could actually be the co-producer of the event itself.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
One thing Nick was talking about was Fullscreen looks at this as, okay, we have creators who have built audience. They can take their brand and bring their audience to anywhere they go. And that's frankly how we work together, as we say, okay, you have YouTubers or Viners with a really big audience. They should probably figure out how to do that on YouNow too. What is like the breakdown at Twitch, and what's like most important? Is it people coming with existing audiences, or is it native Twitchers building their sort of profile? Like how do you view that in terms of like what is important to the Twitch environment and the live streaming environment?
I think it's a combination of both. As you were mentioning, YouTube is a very different skill set where it's highly edited. Oftentimes the pieces are smaller, whether it's a 2 minutes or a 10-minute, somewhere smaller amounts of time. But huge followings, but not tune-in followings. It's followers that say, hey, I'm going to make sure I subscribe to that channel and watch it at my leisure and post a comment at my leisure, which is why the view metrics on a YouTube VOD is very different than a Twitch live stream or any live stream, just because you have it for a captive audience for a period of time. We look at both. So a lot of the Twitch streamers have come up from being live streaming because they can do it for 3 hours at a time, and they're used to the cadence and they know how to speak to the audience. But we'll also bring people across. Captain Sparkles is a good example, a YouTuber who's a huge Minecraft YouTuber, does Minecraft parody music videos, is a brand within himself, and he's also a really popular streamer on the Minecraft part of Twitch. He's got both. He's double dipping, and we encourage it because it's all about creating their brand and having the broadcasters be successful. So it can kind of go either way.
But to your point, we see that same thing happening on YouNow, where some people just aren't used to like sitting in front of a camera for an hour. It's kind of hard to do, and there's a certain cadence that happens more often than they'd like, and they feel a little awkward. So I think like finding a way for them to feel comfortable in that environment is important for just the future of the industry as a whole. I think I read somewhere that only 1 out of 5 people would actually be interested in live streaming. I'm sure if we took a sample in this room, probably only about 20% of us have actually live streamed. And I think like it's really important to figure out how you actually create like an environment where it's not a big task to do a live stream. It's just like taking a snap or taking an Instagram photo, something like very casual. And,
I think you're right. I think it's difficult for it to always work cross-platform. Like King Bosch as a Vine star, he doesn't want to do Periscope. It's long form. It's strange to him. He's not used to it.
because he does you now. Seriously.
Does he?
Yeah.
Well, I
It's
stand
interesting too.
corrected.
Like I find some of the
No
most
shade.
popular guys on Twitch when they live
That's why we gotta
stream.
work closer together.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why
Deals
we're
being
going
made,
in.
deals being made, content deals being made on this panel. Where they may be the most animated, outgoing person on the stream, engage with their audience, and then it goes, "Shh," and then we'll see them at an event. I'll be like, oh hey, I'm a big fan, and they'll be like the shyest, most
Right.
introverted people,
Yeah.
because that's their stage. You know, they're in the comfort of their own home interacting, and yet they don't feel like big stars,
Yeah,
but
and-
there's a comfort level with them and their camera and their audience says.
And the YouTube people are so used to cutting it up and making it beautiful that to go on this raw live thing for them is
risky.
Yeah.
You lose your crutch. Yeah, Nick,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about how you advise the talent at Fullscreen across the different platforms?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's a heavy question. Just because when you break apart who our creators are, they're varied by verticals. So we do have gaming, we do have beauty, personalities, and you would advise these different verticals how to do what they do best in various different ways. If somebody is a great gamer and they do live streaming, we would say, hey, you probably need to be a part of Twitch because that's a good part of your business. If you're part of beauty, we would say that live streaming a tutorial, but getting out the edit portion of a tutorial of how to do your eyebrows or whatever you lovely ladies love to do. If you can kind of sync that up into how do you do it live, then that's a better part of your business. And so you would advise everybody very differently.
And I do the same thing. I actually send a lot of people to Twitch, believe it or not. They come to me and I said, no, this is the wrong platform for you. To be
Yeah.
honest, you should go over to Twitch.
Yeah, I think it's where the audience, finding where the audience is, making sure that you're native and applicable. And I would do the same if it were somebody that were completely off character, with Twitch being, look, if they can't find an audience, but if they're not in the big gaming space or they're not in one of those other verticals that I mentioned are growing, then there's probably another venue for them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, I mean, how do you feel each of the, is there a personality, do you think, for each of the platforms? I mean, again, across Instagram and Vine and so forth, and is there, I'm just thinking, like, if you have someone who's really big on you now, and they have a great following, and you're like, okay, there's like 6 more things you could be doing right now. Like, in terms of, when you try to grow somebody, are you thinking more of growing awareness for them outside their current vertical, or growing their money outside the current vertical, or is it a bit of both? And like, what kind of stands out? I know it depends on who it is, because everyone's different.
Yeah, I mean, it depends
But
on.
when you grow an artist, or you grow a talent,
Right.
you grow your talent, are you thinking awareness first or money first, and which one? do you go
I
with?
think you're thinking awareness first, and to kind of unpack what awareness means to me, I think you're looking at a piece of talent and seeing what their best feature assets are and how do you expand upon that to their audience. So if you're a beauty guru and you're a female and you're 15 and you're in your room all the time doing your makeup, I would say, hey, you should probably think about you now first, perhaps, for doing a live stream, because then I know that she can take her video that she uploaded and put that on YouTube. So now you're making money in 2 places off 1 video. So that's I'm bringing that kind of expertise into kind of the back end of the business, like the analytics on, if you're a Bro Science Life, who is one of our channels, he had an engagement number that was really high with males. I think it was 90-10, where guys were going to his channel and saying, okay, just figuring out how to do leg curls, arm curls, whatever, and how do you expand his audience? Well, you have to play to the females. So he created a show that was Woman Crush Wednesday or something, where he was like, okay, ladies, like, this workout is for you. We're gonna do planks, push-ups, or something specific for women. So his tone changed, what he wears changed, where his background changes. And so when you do
Please
that,
don't tell me he wears pink.
say it again? No.
Please don't
He
tell me
wasn't-
it's full of
he
pink.
definitely wasn't wearing. He's still definitely him. If you've ever seen his channel, he's definitely still him. But yeah, check it out. And but yeah, so it varies for different parts. But it's the analytics behind. That's how you grow a channel
Right.
and how you grow a creative.
Do you have any proven methods on how to grow an audience on a new platform based that you're big on another
If
platform?
I knew that, oh man.
I mean, clearly there's telling your current platform where you're going, but is there anything, like, do you find that people recognize the talent on the new platform? Oh, hey, I saw you on YouTube, and they start telling their friends, or are you really starting from zero on each one?
Oh, so are you talking about our SVOD platform?
No, I'm talking about like you manage talent through Fullscreen.
Yes.
And they're big on YouTube, and now you want them to be on Twitch or YouNow, or
Right.
even they're going to start Vine or anything. Are they always starting from zero, or is there some
Oh, no.
proven ways on each platform
No,
where
no,
you
no.
can?
I think that, I mean, if you're thinking about YouTube, right, which is very edited, and say you have 1 million subscribers, you're going to tell your audience what you're going to do over a long period of time. You will, you'll usually see at the end of a video, click subscribe, check me out on Twitter, check me out on Twitch, check me out on YouNow. So you're going to engage your audience to say, hey, you like this video? Check out my video
Go
on
look-
YouNow.
look at
on
the old
Twitch.
ones. Go
Look
back
at
to
the
my
old
other
ones.
stuff. I got all
Check
kinds
out
of-
my new stuff that's coming out next Wednesday at 9 o'clock on Twitch, and here's the stream, and here's YouNow. You're going to engage that audience that way. And if you're a really good YouTuber, if you're a good personality and you have high engagement, they will travel with you whatever platform you're on.
And the company, I mean, you could probably speak to you now, but if I were to look at Twitch's org chart now, probably the two biggest organizations within Twitch is one is going to be engineering because it's a video platform and a tech platform, but the second is going to be what we call partnerships. And that's all of the people who are there to drive talent and to help talent get onboarded, to teach them about using the platform, to get them to become the partner status, to get them to be that upper tier influencer program where they're doing custom branded people where you guys, some of your guys will probably sit. So it's in our best interest to also encourage that and get talent and identify where we're seeing people that have a natural one and saying, hey, you could be better if you did this.
For sure.
Twitch had its very first live event last year called TwitchCon in San Francisco in September, and we were like, let's see if we throw a con if anybody comes, And it turns out that 20,000 people came through Moscone Center in San Francisco in over a 2-day period. And they were all broadcasters and fans of broadcasters, and it was not an industry-driven thing. It was community-driven for communities, for broadcasters to learn how to do better, to meet their favorite people, whether they were broadcaster on broadcaster or broadcaster on fan,
Right.
how to improve their streams, products to improve their streams. The whole thing was about celebrating the community, not our advertisers or our sponsors and stuff. Although
Right.
there was sponsorship opportunity, we moved it to San Diego this year, and we've already sold out early bird passes, which is about half the passes, and it's announced. So I think the platforms also have to encourage that because that stickiness of your community is hugely important.
Greg and Adam, could you guys talk a little bit about how you're balancing brand money versus native monetization, and which one is more important to you? And then Carolyn, I want you to talk about which one you're focusing on because you're kind of everywhere.
Okay, I'll start. There's no ads on YouNow, which makes a very weird career in media. It's all
Again, the opposite of everything you know about social content networks is
Right.
happening on livestream.
There are no ads. All the revenue is generated from partner contributions, in-app purchases, whether you're tipping or asking for a shout out, or you can send an engagement proposal. You can send a group of likes, 50 likes, which help people trend. There's an applause. All these kind of digital gifts. Okay, and it's like credits in an arcade where you take your credits and you go spend them on whatever you want to do. In this case, the audience spends them on broadcasters. So that's where the money comes from. I think what folks like Fullscreen, what folks like Parachute, the independent production companies of the world, the Endemol's, Fremantle's, what they're going to figure out is that there's a really valuable branded content business on platforms like YouNow, especially as platforms like YouNow, or I can just really speak for YouNow, focus on building the platform and creating a good user experience and not selling ads. There's a lot of money in that, and I think that when you crack that format, people are going to flock to that broadcast because it's interesting, and you can actually drive clicks to wherever you want to go. So imagine this environment. There is a beauty broadcaster, right? Let's take a name we all know. Let's take Michelle Phan. and Michelle says, hey, I'm going to do live interactive beauty tutorials. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use I'm going to show you guys this new wingtip technique, okay? I'm going to use the L'Oreal Wingtip Pro, but you guys can use whatever you want. Use whatever you have at home. I just recommend the Wingtip Pro because it works a lot better for me. And I want you to follow along step by step with me. And I'm going to show you each and every technique, okay? And then once you're done, I want you to jump into my guest broadcasting queue, and I'm going to actually have you on to my broadcast, and I'm going to show you what I thought went very well and what maybe we could improve upon. So all of a sudden, all these girls and maybe guys are jumping on to this guest broadcasting queue. They're following along. They're completely engaged, right? They realize theirs doesn't look that great, so maybe they go buy the Wingtip Pro because there's links for that, right? That's happening. And then they're also...
And you actually have had links to buy directly in your broadcast.
We
I
have,
remember
we have.
Pentatonics did like the textbook example of how to launch a record.
Exactly.
It was amazing.
We jumped them above Bieber on iTunes, and which has something to do with the surge of traffic to iTunes. But so all of a sudden it's cool because the brand is like selling a bunch of these Wingtip Pros. The viewer who maybe isn't participating is actually kind of interested in watching and following along with what's happening with this person and how their experience is getting a makeover, so to speak, a live virtual makeover. And the engagement is through the roof because it's being driven by a personality that we all know and trust. That's where the money is.
So we have a slightly different business model, but also very much in the branded content space as well. So Twitch does sort of ads. Pre-roll, 30-second pre-roll, non-skippable is one of the significant, I would say, still a majority of our revenue comes from advertising. Also subscriptions, also donations. We also have an ad-free subscription product called Turbo. So it's a blend of that, but again, pre-roll advertising is one of the reasons is because the millennial male audience is very difficult to reach on television, and so we are a place where that's very reachable. The other thing is people are tuning into the content and are going to stick around for a long time. So going through a 30-second ad to be able to watch for an hour and 106 minutes of content, it's not such a bad equation as far as being exposed to an advertisement. I'll give you probably what I think the best example of a brand coming in. I liked your L'Oreal one on Twitch and utilizing the entire. It's a good one. And using the entire ecosystem. Totino's Pizza Roll from General Mills was rebranding and relaunching their pizza roll product last year, and their slogan was "Live Free, Couch Hard," and it was pizza rolls and to be the dude on the sofa that's binge watching Daredevil and playing video games till all hours of the morning and nuke some pizza rolls and keep going kind of thing. And that was their thing. So they came to us and said, hey, we really think that gaming is a vertical that this responds to. So how should we spend this amount? Teach us how to do this. So a chunk of it is going to be, their commercial, because they spend a lot of time in focus groups on, hey, we've got a couple of different creatives that speak to this, and we want it to be tailored to that. So that's going to be a part of it. We then created 3 custom influencer executions where we would use talent on our show, where it was either a Call of Duty tournament, a Mario Maker tournament, and a FIFA tournament. So all very different games. You got a sports game, a Nintendo game, and a first-person shooter, where the actual games themselves were done by the influencers, played against each other, played against their fans, branded Totino's. So that was another custom execution piece. And then at the last bit, we had them sponsor esports events. Mm-hmm. So they became actually branded sponsors in esports events. So this Heroes of the Storm and North American Finals is brought to you by Totino's. Totino's, live free, couch hard. Let's go to the Totino's replay. And so what it was able to do, and they did that across 4 different games, and what it was able to do was touch the Twitch environment across using our influencers, general media, and then sort of the esports component. And it was a really nice way to kind of do that. And they basically came to us with saying, hey, we want to do this. What's the best way to dissect it?
So I just wanted to jump in to say that Fullscreen has done so well in data, probably more than any MCN not just because I worked there. I worked at a couple. I know it's true. Because to unpack that idea is that when a brand comes in and says, we have this amount of money, we have $10,000, how we want to work with Michelle Phan, it's L'Oreal has the $10,000. We are able to say, we're going to put this money in these certain pots, and this is exactly how many likes, how much activation you're going to get back, and it's proven. We prove it time over time and time and again.
But that's not video on demand.
That is video on demand. But what I was going to touch on was what Live is going to do is it's going to diversify what our sales team goes out to sell. Is when they go out to sell YouTube, they can also say, for an extra $5,000, we're going to do a live stream on YouNow. For an extra $5,000, we're going to do another live stream on Twitch, and we're going to link them all together and package all of that together in one big purchase that we'll get a lot of data back from. And so you're going to be able to reach a lot of different. You're going to reach your core audience, but then, as you know, when you reach your core audience, it's going to siphon out. You're going to reach a lot of audiences that you didn't expect to get before, because people are going to share, people are going to like, and people are going to comment.
And this is why I like working with Nick, because if I know that he's going out and selling a really interesting program that's entertaining and fun to watch, like, we're going to help him make sure he has the right predictive metrics on YouNow as well.
But
That
are
he
you
can say,
sharing
"You know,
are you sharing in that $5,000 he's billing?
No.
And you're fine
We
with
just
that?
want good content.
Engagement.
Yeah.
Good content, engagement. Like I said before, like, the future of live streaming being a content destination is really important to me. And I think it's only going to happen if you have people thinking creatively like that, like Caroline and Nick are.
Yeah, that situation with us, generally, they don't want to just do a one-off live stream and be gone. Right. So if Brand X is saying, hey, we've worked with the content partners, we've got this thing coming to Twitch, what else can we do on Twitch that takes advantage of that? So is there media? Is there other things that you can do? Can you amplify this by doing different things? So we make sure that they get the maximum amount of exposure, so it's not just a one-time unpromoted stream that's buried. It's also an event on Twitch.
For sure.
So those things go hand in hand.
Caroline, I'm curious, as from a content creator standpoint, how has your experience varied between a brand sponsor and native monetization?
Yeah, so because we've been solely on Periscope for the last 9 months, up until last month, we're branching out. They don't have a monetization model built in. We all know that Periscope did not do that. So we focused on scaling, creating good content, but there was some talk about, we have conversations with brands all the time, but pre-roll, post-roll ad is something you could do, but it's a little bit archaic on Periscope because it's not built in. What's the other thing I was going to say? It just escaped my brain. But anyways, I'll talk a little bit about an example of something we did. About the Snapchat. You know how they have like the really quick kind of like organic, authentic, like 6-second ad? So that's something else that we, as content creators, think could be fun and interesting to just, put that, or product placement in a fun way, like Zach Galifianakis between two ferns on Funny or Die. It was always like he'd hold the deodorant or whatever. So those are all things that we're always thinking about. But aside from that, we have a subsidiary of Parachute TV called Livestream, which is essentially an influencer network, and we do branded campaigns. So an example is one we did with Seriously and their mobile gaming app, their game Best Fiends, and we took 18 to 24-year-old females that played, because it's a video game that it's not really driven towards men, female influencers that we had, and they would just say their top favorite 5 apps that they're using, and write the little SP or the AD, and then they would mention Best Fiends, and it drove downloads for them. They've done it on YouTube with PewDiePie and huge people, but they really wanted to experiment with Periscope. So that was one way, and another way that we're going to continue going forward. But truthfully, that's why we're excited to partner with people like YouNow that have it in how eloquently you explained it with the, I believe in that way, especially in this world that people don't, and we all know this, people don't want to be told to buy something, and the millennials, they want it to all just feel like my friend is mentioning this eyeliner that maybe I should try. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of where we've been at with it, and next steps going forward is to continue the conversations in the Periscope world with doing some of maybe that organic ad insertion, and continuing to expand to platforms like YouNow.
Right. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Just for the panel as a whole, do any of your content creators think about getting onto a bigger screen, like a television? Does that matter to you? And if they were to do that, would they then be moving to your competition, or would you still be part of that process? Is that something that is on the horizon to do more sort of like HD stuff?
So for us, influencers or people on talent are used for custom commercials. That's not uncommon. Oftentimes those custom commercials run on Twitch, but they would also run on television and network. And that again, is one of those things where we look at it like, that's great. It's great exposure for them. It's great exposure for the platform. Generally, you would only see something if there's some sort of exclusivity element to it, where somebody wants to say you have to be on one platform and can't be on the other. That can sometimes be problematic, but we generally don't see that. We don't have a thing that says you can't be on YouTube, you can, or even you now, of course. But if somebody says, hey, we want you to be exclusively on us, and that's not a big topic of conversations.
Just a joke. I think when you think of the creators in the digital space who are going to make that jump from the little screen to the bigger screen, I think everybody will agree. When you're talking to the top, it's like you're talking to Tom Cruise. And so he won't care. He'll just be like, is my $20 million check coming? I'll do whatever you want. That is our expectations that our creators who are in our network, who are in the digital atmosphere, who are making 6 figures on AdSense every year, they don't care. They like if you want them to be on Twitch or you want them to be on YouNow and they don't want to do it, you're going to have to pay them to do it.
So they're not really aspiring to get like on a sitcom on CBS or something, are they?
I don't know. No.
I think it's case by case.
care.
Just
gonna
case
say
by
no.
case.
Yeah.
Some people just love that, 100% control that they have, like you were
Right.
talking about, the exclusivity of being able to control every direction they go in. I think what happens is, in a lot of the instances we've seen where, digital influencers go, they build a strong audience, they build a strong following. Networks look at them as very exciting because they come with built-in marketing, right? They're like good prospects for the new face of networks. If they sort of abandon what made them who they are in the first place, that's kind of when it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And I hate to use the Grace example, but I think I worked at Fullscreen. So it's okay. Grace Helbig left to do a show on E, and I think like everything that happened on YouTube in the meantime kind of fell to the wayside a little bit, and I think there's a sense of disappointment amongst her fans. It's not that her show was horrible or anything, and people were frankly very proud of her to do it. I think it's just like, you end up in this environment where it's like you kind of forgot your roots a little bit, and it's important to stay true to that. And I think, wherever creators go and whatever the longevity of their careers are in whichever screen, like they need to be true to what help them get to that level of fame and success.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was at a panel up in Seattle last week, 2 weeks ago, and a YouTuber was on there, and his business manager was on there, and he was talking about, and I'll remember his name in a little bit, and he was talking about how he just wanted to expand his business in what he was passionate about, right? Because that's how he got success and so he has started a coffee company, and he has started a clothing line, and he has launched a record label. All of 3 things that he's kind of always talked about, but that's not the subject matter of his YouTube show. But he was like, but he felt he could genuinely represent those products to his audience, and if he felt like he could do that honestly and be passionate about the quality of the product and what he was offering, then he felt it was good. So it was an interesting take on this.
Any other questions? Yeah.
One of the byproducts of any stream is an actual video at the end. So are you at all interested in distributing those videos a little bit more widely?
Well, for us, we're currently on Periscope, and the videos expire after 24 hours, but we keep all of our videos. And so there was an outside app that called Catch that would save the videos, but they've recently stepped down. But we're repurposing our videos on YouTube, and we are also considering some of our content is easily digestible audibly, so we're considering doing some podcasting of some of our shows as well. We've been in talks to do that, so yeah.
For us, we look at markets where we don't have penetration, so areas where we don't have, where the internet is not as good, so Asia, Russia, some other areas where, live streaming may not have it, and if there is a content extension area. We also partner with a lot of people now where they're actually doing dual broadcast. So they'll stream. We did a show with the NFL all around Madden and competitive gaming around Madden, where the show launched simultaneously on the NFLnetwork.com and Twitch, and then later got put into the programming on the NFL Network. So there are different distribution models that take advantage of different properties. I think we're always open, because I think that the people that are on NFLnetwork.com and on the NFL Network are a very different audience than the folks that are on Twitch, and yet they still share a passion for gaming and Madden. So I think that there are ways to.
So again, I think it comes back to, what the value of the content is, and I think the way where we're at right now with live streaming is it's so niche and it's so personality or singular, driven by a singular brand, that it just doesn't make sense for a mainstream sort of application, right? So if you're distributing to other digital platforms, yes, there's a possibility, but until you see the very enriching, kind of entertaining type of content executions on live streaming platforms, you won't see sort of massive level distribution to networks and so on. Hopefully these guys will figure that out.
Any other questions? We have time for one or two more. Yeah. You?
It sounds like, I'm going back to the first thing you were talking about, which was an advice show for teens.
Mm-hmm.
Given that there are a lot of minors involved in this, what sort of responsibility, if any, do you guys feel towards A, keeping them safe, or B, just avoiding lawsuits from the parents, given things like giving them advice or recommending products to them, or something that could potentially be harmful?
Well, for me, when I was broadcasting, I just always was very clear. I'm not a counselor. This is just a second opinion going on here. So I didn't claim to have any authority or any research or anything to back anything up. It was just like asking a big sister, more or less. And I tried not to say anything that they could go back to their parents with and piss off some parents. And I actually never had a parent come to me. And I had a lot of people on my broadcast, be excited that I'm there, and they can sort of talk about things and email me offline with other questions and so forth. So I just tried to keep it all like, what would I tell my niece?
Have there been any other experiences from any?
Sure. I think we're the target for that question. I think any platform that takes zero responsibility for the content it has on it is a shame, frankly. I think they have a true responsibility not to necessarily control what everyone puts out there, but when it does happen, there's a system in place, right? And like I said earlier, was founded in 2011. That wasn't quite there yet,
Yeah.
right? And we went through some challenges to figure that out. Got some bad press. Things happen, basically, right? Now I'm proud to say that there is 24/7 community management and moderation in 12 different languages. There's technology that senses nudity or violent hate speech. In fact, if you want to talk crap on a broadcast, if you say, you're a piece of shit or whatever, and even if you spell it SHITTE, the person who types that will see it as going through, but actually nobody else will, including the broadcaster. So we're kind of trolling the trolls in that situation. But I think it's extremely important to address that because otherwise we're just getting into a really wild, chaotic, uncontrolled world. And if you want to have brands be in this business, you need to take some sort of action for that.
Yeah, and that's definitely something, again, probably similar with Twitch. In the early days, it was a little bit more Wild West, and then you brought in moderation, and you brought in terms and conditions, and you started kicking people off the service, and you started delisting partners who were making money, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a minute, and you're like, well, you can't do that. And then, of course, being acquired by Amazon will make a whole nother level of security and a variety of making sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. I mean, and we love that, and that's one of the advantages and acceleration of that sort of technology and support for our community. But yes, it is something we're very concerned with. We both agree.
Yeah, I would agree. And on Parachute TV, I mean, I personally vet all the shows and all the talent. And if there's ever anything, we watch all the shows. We're on top of it. I'm a mom, so I totally get that with the minors and everything. And it's something that we're constantly aware of. And even on the flip side, putting kids on live stream, but that's a whole other topic.
Great, I think that's our time today. Guys, thank you so much for coming, and thanks to our panel. It's fantastic, thank you.
Brother.